At the global policy level, the climate-nature nexus has won the argument. Mitigation, adaptation, and biodiversity conservation are now recognized by the Paris Agreement and the Global Biodiversity Framework as a single, integrated system. The evidence that nature-based solutions mitigate climate impacts is consistent and overwhelming. The science is settled, and the results are no longer up for debate. The challenge for any city is moving from intention to operation. The real work begins after the ribbon cutting, ensuring an asset survives once the founding champions have moved on. This reveals a difficult operational paradox. Highly celebrated urban green programs frequently trigger economic forces that displace the very local communities they were built to protect. This failure occurs when a project's financial architecture is treated as a downstream funding question rather than a core design variable. Building the physical infrastructure is only a fraction of the work. Successfully completing an environmental asset does not guarantee it will survive to serve its intended local users over the long term. To address this, we must examine the concept of resilient equity. The standard academic concept of equitable resilience asks how the benefits of an intervention can be shared fairly upon project completion. Resilient equity inverts that premise. It demands the structural engineering required to make those achieved benefits last across the entire lifespan of the asset. The first major force eroding these gains is uncaptured land value uplift. A new amenity drives up adjacent property values, raising rents and pricing out incumbent residents. The second force is municipal maintenance failure. An unfunded shared asset must compete annually for budget allocations, allowing physical decay to destroy its functionality. Without structural financial protection against these forces, every successful green asset contains the economic seeds of its own destruction. Between 2016 and 2019, the green corridors of Medellín, Colombia, became one of the most admired urban nature-based interventions in the world. The city built 30 interconnected green axes, routing them alongside streams and existing urban transit spines to maximize their physical footprint. The municipality reported these corridors lowered citywide temperatures by about 2 degrees Celsius, alongside a reported rise in active transit and a decline in respiratory illness. The administration achieved equity by design. They deliberately routed these investments directly into lower-income districts rather than exclusively wealthy neighborhoods. They utilized an inclusive procurement strategy, training a gardener corps drawn specifically from displaced and marginalized local populations. Yet the corridors lack a dedicated revenue stream. Every year, they are left to compete for the standard municipal budget allocation to stay alive. The city's own audit revealed a severe financial oversight. The substantial rise in adjacent property values created by the corridors was never structurally captured by the municipality. Because this generated wealth is not recycled into the neighborhood, lower-income residents are left entirely exposed to rising rents and eventual market displacement. Despite excellent intentions and participatory planning, the core equity of the project was left structurally unprotected. Equity by design works effectively at delivery, but it is highly vulnerable to erosion when disconnected from the asset's underlying economic model. In Durban, South Africa, we see a structurally contrasting approach to urban greening. Their Buffels Dry Community Reforestation Program around a municipal landfill operates on a model of equity by structure. The underlying revenue structure puts economics in the hands of the community. Local participants grow and trade indigenous trees for credits, redeemable for food and school fees. The crucial difference is land tenure. This reforestation occurs entirely on municipally owned land, rather than private real estate. Municipal ownership blocks the speculative redevelopment and displacement cycles that plague typical green corridor projects. Anchoring social benefits directly into tenure and revenue models engineers an equity gain that is structurally built to last. For dense urban settings where public land ownership isn't an option, securing resilient equity requires the use of land value capture. Green infrastructure acts as a powerful economic catalyst, rapidly driving up the speculative value of all adjacent private properties. A betterment levy legally recovers a portion of this publicly generated wealth from private landowners. This capture mechanism establishes a permanently dedicated, ring-fenced revenue stream. This connects directly to the first vulnerability. The fund permanently finances operation and maintenance, halting the physical decay of the asset. It solves the second vulnerability by recycling the wealth back into the host district to protect the incumbent community. Colombia possesses some of the world's most sophisticated national land value capture laws, yet these tools were ignored for Medellín's green corridors. Ignoring these established financial instruments turns an asset that could easily fund its own survival into a perpetual municipal liability. Land value capture functions as the structural engine of resilient equity, securing both the physical asset and the social gain. Development financiers and municipal authorities face a specific operational bottleneck. The barrier to scaling urban nature is not a lack of global capital. It is a severe shortage of financially structured projects, leaving operation, maintenance, and community protection to the goodwill of future city budgets is a systemic institutional failure. Financial architecture and dedicated revenue streams must be elevated to upstream design variables, required before project approval. An equity gain announced at a ribbon cutting means little if it isn't legally engineered to survive decades of market pressure. An unmaintained asset physically cannot deliver climate adaptation. An upstream financial failure guarantees a downstream climate failure. To consult the full methodologies, case studies, and models, refer to the first issue of NbS Praxis. The ultimate survival of urban nature relies entirely on integrating its social and environmental benefits directly into its capital structure.